It's my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, Professor Andreu Palou, who is a professor of biochemistry and molecular biology at University of the Balearic Islands. I'm very lucky. I have speakers that come all from beautiful places. He has held a number of roles in his life, including as Secretary of the Faculty of Science, Director of the Department of Fundamental Biology and Health Sciences, and VP for Research and Planning. And he is now General Director of the Laboratory of Molecular Biology and Nutrition and Biotechnology at the University of Balearic Islands. So,
good afternoon. Thank you very much, Laura, for the introduction and for the invitation. And to the organizers, it's a pleasure for me to contribute to this Chance Final Conference. And I'm going to talk about this context of the health claims made on food, which is in close connection with the previous presentation. Is, let's say, the other side of the coin. Because the new challenge in nutrition and food are the chronic disease now, and all well-being aspects that are known to be related with food. So obesity, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, which accounts for more than half of the health problems and death in the world, and are directly related with diet. And it has an increasing impact on health and economic. This is driving a very big change in the food sector. We knew, as has been presented just before, that malnutrition kills. But now we know that obesity also kills. So associated with hypertension, dyslipidemia, insulin resistance, cardiovascular disease, etc. So this is, let's say, a very big nutrition and food challenge. And something is going in the wrong direction, because we are moving in one direction, and technology is going to the opposite. So 1,500 million of people in the world is overweight, 500 million are obese. New technologies and strategies should be incorporated to make a correction here. There is an increased consumption on the so-called functional food in over the world. For example, in these different regions, the increase is 30-some% in the last 4 years. So it means that functional food market is increasing at an annual rate of 6%, including the situation of the crisis we have. And we had this kind of advertising, new snack without cholesterol. Why it has to be cholesterol in this snack? So there was a confusion, false message. Marketing and labeling might mislead the consumer. They knock out in some way us. And there was clearly in Europe and in all developed world a need for more strict use of health claims made on food and what foods can bear health claims. These are the two main questions that were on the tables 10 years ago or so. So to summarize the situation in Europe, we moved from the consideration of safety and then we moved to the efficacy. So 250 euros for misleading the public, in addition to 100 euros for speeding. And this is, in summary, the new regulation. The new regulation in Europe on nutrition and health claim made on food, which essentially established that these claims on food must be substantiated by scientific evidence. And there is a body that decides if there is or not sufficient scientific evidence, which is the European Food Safety Authority. So this is the essence of this regulation, and it has to be into account the mandate that was told to us in 2006, that the decision, if there is enough evidence to sustain a claim, has to be done after a scientific assessment of the highest possible standard. So the idea is to move into what we can call the science-based nutrition or the evidence-based nutrition. It's not the nutrition that the bibliography is found in the journal of 10 minutes or hello, but in more solid, based in more solid science. The three key aspects challenging this regulation are, first, that these claims on food must be substantiated by scientific evidence, and this is going ahead. There are some problems, but it's progressing. The second is that only those food with an appropriate nutrient profile will be allowed to bear claim, and this is delayed more than 5 years, I think. Yes, 5 years or more. And the third important aspect is the intellectual property, in the sense that this is stimulating the research and development in this sector, because data that is considered essential to substantiate the claim is protected for 5 years. So it means a sort of patent. There is a compensation for the investment in these studies. But there are some problems of interpretation, some very important problems. At the end, the objective of this regulation is to improve health, to enhance innovation, and the effective working of the internal market. So, during several years in the SCF, Scientific Committee on Food, I was member in 1997, and until 2007, most of the work was on these matters, dietetic foods, upper levels and recommendations of nutrients, etc., on safety aspects, let's say, novel foods, also allergies, and since 2007, most of the work has been in this EFSA panel, has been on this problem of the health claims made on food. So this regulation covers two types of claims. The nutritional or the nutrition claims that I will not talk about are referred only to the content. So there are some figures clearly established. There is no possibility of confusion. And the health claims that are related with the effects of the foods or food components. And of these health claims, we can consider what can be called the function or functional claims that are under the Article 13, and then the reduction of disease risk claims and claims related with children's development and health that are under Article 14. And there was the problem of to decide on what can continue in the market after this regulation in 2007. Is to prepare the list of what can continue in the market. And this was a very important task between 2007 and 2012. And we started with 44,000 application or items or possibilities of claims that were filtered, and finally there was only 4,600 filtered claims, and at the end only today 255 claims are authorized. It means a very important filtration of what was in the market, what is now in the market, except some temporary articles that maintain, for example, the use of the brands and some other things. In the current status in this year, after this relevant legislation, I will not go into this, is that we have these 255 claims authorized and near 2,000 refused, which are in the list, in the register of the European Union. And there are these about 2,000 claims pending, let's say, waiting for a political decision, because these correspond to botanical extracts that will be very difficult for this product to survive the evaluation, because the history of is very soft. There are only 11 claims on reduction of disease, and similar number on children, and 233 that are functional health claims. Of these, there are some that are protected because are based on new science, and they have this protection for 5 years. The winners of this history has been the vitamins and minerals. Practically 70% of the claims authorized are referred to vitamins and essential minerals because of the properties that we all in nutrition know or knew that they were there. And there are also some specific dietetic fibers, some antioxidant effects of components, polyphenols of the olive oil, some effects of nut, and the essential fatty acid, the omega-3 and omega-6, these kind of things, but mainly vitamins and mineral. And this has led to an important reformulation of many of the products in the market that couldn't continue to do the marketing in the same way, but they introduced some component just to base, to maintain in a certain way the same strategy of marketing. So the winners has been mainly these vitamins and minerals, for example, zinc and maintenance of cognitive function, antioxidant function, anti-inflammatory. There is no a good biomarker for inflammation, so it's not possible to perform clinical studies to substantiate the claim. There is a lack of biomarkers for this and for the antioxidant effect, for many other interesting, exactly. So the main challenge is scientific substantiation. And as article says, the claims shall be based on and substantiated by generally accepted scientific evidence. This is the formulation. And what does it mean in practice? In practice, you have to read this guide we prepared in we published in 2007, and is maintained nowadays with some changes only in administration. It's very descriptive guidance. And at the end, the question is, how does the competent panel in EFSA, how it decides whether a claim is substantiated? It has to consider all the evidence from the pertinent studies. Pertinent means studies performed with the same product. It's not useful to perform a study with a probiotic and with another, etc., with the same, with the very specified product. And to weight the strength, the consistency, the biological plausibility, the mechanism, the quality of the individual studies, that the study has to be performed in representative population, and of course, human data are absolutely necessary, we can say, in 99.9% of the cases, up to now in 100% of the cases. And there is no pre-established formula on how many studies are required. The two key aspects that should be demonstrated are that there is a cause-effect relationship, one side, and second, the effect has to be beneficial. And for this, we need biomarkers. Biomarkers of a function, or biomarkers of, as a risk factor of a disease. We need something to measure and to demonstrate in very well-controlled clinical studies, in intervention studies in humans. So the first question that the panel asks to any dossier is if it is the food sufficiently defined, clear composition, specification, is the claim clearly defined, and is it a beneficial effect, beneficial in terms of health. There is some ambiguity here, but it has to be understood in terms of health? And third question, have pertinent human studies been presented? So before analyzing, this question has to be answered by yes. And if there are no human studies, it will be practically impossible. Then these studies should prove double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, 3 or 4, or it's difficult to say a number of studies, very well performed, representative of the population, etc. These studies are essential. And then the component of the food has to be compatible with the balanced diet and other things not so difficult to fulfill. So the essential things are controlled intervention studies in humans, beneficial effect, and biological plausibility. The mechanisms are increasing in the importance because if you understand the effect, then you become more convinced that there is this effect. And the difficulty in nutrition, contrary to what happens in pharma, is that the question is to improve health in healthy people, in healthy person. So for a pharma, there is a wide margin of improvement that is possible. But for a food, there is a very small margin. And more healthy means less effect. So this is the main problem. And this is because the studies are very expensive in the sense that you have to involve a lot of volunteers because the effect is very small. And what are valid are the studies in healthy people, not under disease. In some cases, yes, but it depends on where, how is the disease considered. The lower the magnitude of the effect, the higher the number of participants, and this is the problem of budget of the studies. It's necessary to make important investment, preliminary studies. So the companies don't have to ask for a reduction of budget because they enter in the risk that then you will have neutral results, and neutral results between us are negative results, or under the risk to be considered a negative result if you don't have a clear and convincing explanation. So most applications have been refused because of various disqualifying factors, particularly the study design, the lack of appropriate controls, the compliance of the volunteers, the power calculation. You cannot perform the statistic after having the results. You have to plan, etc. There are important things pending, for example, this question of the nutrient profiles. What food can bear health claims? The idea is not to enhance the consumption of food that are high in saturated fat or in salt or in some... but it has been impossible up to now. The Article 4 of this regulation says by 19th of January 2009, the Commission shall establish the nutrient profiles. It has not been possible up to now, and there is very important controversy, because if you decide that this food is considered okay to bear health claim, it will be considered a good food, and the one that is not considered will be bad food, and this is against many historical assumptions in nutrition that sometimes are not very well based, in my opinion. So currently, it has to be established a line. This food is allowed to bear claim, and this not. And this is the big discussion, because everybody wants his or her food to be, so you can put the line somewhere, and then you will have some food that is eligible to bear health claims, and food that will be ineligible. A new proposal by the end of the year. I don't put the year now because I am changing the slide every year, so I say the year. This is the idea. But in spite that the decision has not been taken, there is a tendency in the industry to modify and to improve the composition of the food, because there is this possibility. So the tendency is that if you have a food here, the tendency should go to increase the components of let's say, healthy components, fiber, etc., and to limit salt, saturated fat, etc. And this is the tendency we have observed in the industry. And this is only, and I am finishing, part is only the small top of the iceberg. The new knowledge that is coming from this new nutrition based on solid science, on physiology, genetics, biochemistry, chemistry, etc., will be a need for new methods and new models to be accepted in the future. New concepts, for example, metabolic health or homeostatic robustness, the personalization. For example, in this case, it's clear it helps me focus on what matters most. Now, nutrition is based on a statistic on what happens for the mean and for the average of the population of between certain limits. But what matters most is what happens to oneself. So in the past, we have this based on traditional recommendation, or now the functional food, and in the future we have personalized nutrition with these new technologies that has been explained today. And we have this project, BioClaims, that we are coordinating from in Mallorca and involve a number of groups in Europe, looking or trying to identify new biomarkers, because this is the bottleneck for the real development of the food sector in the field of health. If you don't have biomarkers, you cannot perform clinical studies. You have cholesterol, you have blood pressure, and a few more. But for many of the functions that are interesting and are probably affected by food, you don't have very good biomarkers. And this project tried to obtain these new biomarkers. In 2000 now, our hypothesis was, we were well informed, I have to say, but that practically 90% of the more than 4,000 applications for claim will be rejected. And this has been the situation today. Today only, as I have said, 255 permitted health claims up to now. And the identification and validation of robust biomarkers, we understand, is crucial for assessing the potential effectiveness and benefits of health-promoting food compounds. And we consider this lack as the main bottleneck, as I said before, and we tried to propose a new strategy based on two pillars. First, a new concept of biomarkers based on the quantification of homeostatic robustness, and second, the inclusion of enabling nutrigenomic technologies to allow phenotypic characterization. So, not only looking for basal parameters, but introducing some challenge to amplify this information. So our models include fasting, cold, oxygen pressure, damage, functional foods, etc. And then we try to compare a group with full health with one at risk, and from these to obtain an idea of biomarker and to test this biomarker in different models. In humans, in different animal models, etc. And from this, we will try to obtain robust biomarkers for claim support in the future. So in this, I am just finishing. We have this situation where B is clearly different with age, but we want to obtain the biomarker here very early, before any other sign of this alteration is present. So for this, we use these different models and we test to obtain, finally, to try to validate in humans the obtained biomarkers. And this is what we expected to help to the modification of the regulation in 2013, that is now we consider is not 2013 but 2015 and perhaps 2016, we'll see. But we expect that bioclaims can be or will be able to provide some basis for nutrigenomic derived health claims. And that we are trying to do in Mallorca, near Deià, in Naforadada, and where we have a very nice group. I have a nice group of research there. Thank you for your attention.